One night, a drunk Dana White thought he blew $80,000 at the casino. By morning, it turned out to be $3 million. And trust us, every casino is still talking about it. But when you've a net worth of $500 million, nights like that are just a small part of his lifestyle. Whether buying samurai swords older than most countries or a saber-toothed tiger skull hanging in the office next to his AK-47 artwork, his shopping list is as wild as his stories. And trust us, this is just the start. Dana White turned the UFC into a global powerhouse, from near collapse to selling out arenas worldwide. Along the way, he found a surprising ally in President Trump. Their friendship spans decades, built on mutual support. Trump stood by Dana during the UFC's toughest years, and Dana found a way to return the favor years later. How did these two meet? Let's say it involved late-night calls, wild ideas, and Trump betting on the UFC before it was cool. What's behind Dana White's love for gambling millions like it's a weekend hobby? How did teaming up with Trump turn the UFC into a billion-dollar brand? And what's the story behind his most ridiculous splurges? Well, stick around, because here on Refined Society, we're diving into all the wild stories, shocking purchases, and larger-than-life moments that make Dana White who he is. In the early 2000s, the UFC was on the brink of collapse. Venues wouldn't touch it, sponsors ran the other way, and politicians called it human cockfighting. Pay-per-views barely sold, and the few events they managed to book felt more like an underground fight club than a legitimate sport. It was so bad that the UFC couldn't even give away tickets without people asking, is this legal? One man saw the vision: Donald J. Trump. When everyone else bailed, he offered the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. There were no questions, no hesitation, just a prime venue and a handshake deal. That lifeline didn't just save the UFC, it launched one of the most unlikely bromances in sports history. Fast forward to 2024, and Dana paid back the favor in style. He hit the campaign trail, called Trump a fighter, and rallied the UFC fanbase like it was fight night. But he wasn't done. Dana pulled out his Rolodex, bringing influencers, musicians, and big-name celebrities into Trump's orbit. Even Joe Rogan jumped in. Rogan's sit-down with Trump exploded on his podcast, pulling in a ridiculous 53 million views on YouTube. That's not a campaign boost, it's a KO. The results? Trump walked into the Oval Office, and Dana started swimming in cash. Today, the UFC is a global beast. In 2024, it smashed records with $2.7 billion in revenue, thanks to booming media rights, sold-out arenas, and sponsors lining up to throw money at Dana, with a worldwide TV audience of 300 million and 100 million social media followers. And the president hasn't forgotten his friend. He's a regular at UFC events, sitting cage-side like it's his throne, drawing millions of eyeballs every time. Every Trump appearance is a win-win. Dana gets record views, and Trump receives cheers louder than any campaign rally. Together, they've turned the UFC into a billion-dollar machine, and the fight nights keep getting bigger. When you're as rich as Dana White, there are certain things you should never do, like gamble while drunk. But hey, rules are meant to be broken, right? Dana and his buddies lived it up one night at the Rio in Las Vegas, enjoying dinner and drinks. As the night progressed, they went to the high-limit room for blackjack. Dana, continuing to drink and have a blast, eventually called it a night, thinking he was down about $80,000. The next morning, feeling the sting of his loss, Dana was determined to win back his money. While at work, he received a call from the casino host, who asked if he still needed the suite. Dana replied, "No, but don't get too comfortable with my 80 grand, I'm coming back for it." There was dead silence on the other end before the host broke the news. "Dana, you lost $3 million last night." Since that night, he made it a rule to never drink while playing cards. But losing $3 million isn't a financial catastrophe when you're Dana White. He can afford to take such hits with his business generating substantial revenue. And if you're not convinced that Dana White is a passionate gambler, consider this. His most prized possession isn't one of his custom-made cars or even his tricked-out office with a private gym and a war room, which we'll have a quick look at in a minute. Nope, it's a poker tournament trophy. That's right, out of all the luxuries his wealth can buy, it's that shiny piece of poker glory that holds a special place in his heart. In an interview, Dana once joked that when he dies, he wants to be buried with it. Forget the billions or the UFC empire, he's taking that trophy to the afterlife. When Dana White isn't busy betting millions, he's living like a king with his family. His Las Vegas mansion isn't just a house, it's a fortress of fun. He stitched together 3 properties he bought between 2006 and 2007, creating a giant estate with a custom arcade, a basketball court, and a bar big enough to make any sports fan jealous. Not into the desert vibe? No problem. He's got a mansion in Maine, because who doesn't need a backup mansion? All of Dana White's mansions have nothing on his ultimate office, man cave. Front and center are 2 authentic samurai swords from the 1500s and 1600s, worth $69,000. They sit next to a statue of their original samurai owner, because Dana needed that for the full effect. Then there's the $160,000 saber-toothed tiger skull, a prehistoric flex that screams apex predator energy. And let's not forget the AK-47 art piece by Brant Simonson, a decommissioned rifle decked out with dollar bills, gold, and diamonds, making it the most Dana White version of a peace statement ever. With signed guitars, Yakuza paintings, and a war room straight out of an action movie, Dana's office is what happens when money meets a love for all things epic. Dana skips the security line for travel with his $61 million Bombardier Global 6000 private jet, complete with a master suite. And while he doesn't own a yacht, he once rented the 377-foot AFO for $2.8 million a week, proving that sometimes you don't need to own the boat, just the cash to borrow it. When Dana White isn't flying in his jet or cruising on a rented super yacht, he's tearing up the streets in some cool cars. Leading the pack is his 1971 Plymouth Barracuda, a muscle car masterpiece built for him by Chip Foose and the muscle car crew. It's got a Hemi V8 engine, costs over $2 million, and looks like it rolled straight out of a movie. Next, there's his Ferrari F430 Spider, an Italian rocket with a 4.3-liter V8 engine that hits 60 miles per hour faster than you can say Fight Night. After a major UFC win, he picked this beauty up for around $217,000. It's sleek, loud, and everything you'd expect from a guy who can make an entrance. And then there's the 1969 Chevy Camaro, a classic that screams pure Americana. With metallic grey paint and custom black wheels, it's worth over $250,000 and could easily steal the spotlight at any car show or parking lot. Dana's love for power and precision doesn't stop at cars. It's the same drive that turned the UFC into a global empire, and his plans for 2025 prove he's far from done. First up is Zuffa Boxing. In 2024, Dana announced his return to the boxing world, aiming to shake things up like he did with the UFC. His idea: take boxing's scattered mess and give it a UFC-style makeover with better structure, bigger fights, and much less drama. Then there's Thrill One Sports and Entertainment, which Dana co-owns. It's like the X Games on steroids, with events like Nitro Circus, Nitro Cross, and Street League skateboarding. Think flips, tricks, and wipeouts, because Dana's love for adrenaline apparently doesn't stop at the octagon. And we can't skip Power Slap, the slap fighting league Dana launched with the Fertitta brothers. Yes, slap fighting is where grown adults slap each other silly until someone gives up. It's wild and ridiculous, and somehow it has a fan base. Dana White's life is like a high-stakes poker game. Big risks, wild wins, and enough cash to keep the fun going. With a net worth nearing $500 million and a knack for turning every gamble into gold, he's even on pace to hit the billionaire club. What's crazier, losing $3 million in one night or owning a saber-toothed tiger skull? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Refined Society.